considered disturbing the peace of the authorities of the summer. I'd like to introduce myself as the chair of the Parks Committee. Most
they have
of you know, Barbara, and we have very important guests with us tonight. We have Greg Hager, who is the Deputy Parks Commissioner.
Deputy Director.
Deputy Director for Forestry.
You're giving me too much credit.
We just elevated you.
All right, I'm going to do the attendance first for the committee. All right, on President Wednesday, Tasha Andrews.
Here.
Thank you. Ruth Caraballo. Toby Luther.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Sue Lopez Jensen told us he was going to be away. And Daisy Perry, not as yet. Okay. All right, so we'll hold off on looking at the minutes from next month's meeting and move on to a follow-up from the previous month. I think many of you remember from last month we talked about the possible landmarking of the aqueduct. The hearing will be next Tuesday, the 14th, and I believe it's at 9:30 in the morning. And I believe it's online also, so if you want to listen, there is a paper within the agenda giving you the information. What's up before landmarks is the landmarking of Aqueduct Walk from Kingsbridge Road to Fremont. So I think it would be great for our neighborhood and our parks if we can get this done. So if you're available on next Tuesday, you can either go, or I believe the information is here. We did send a letter from Community Board 7 supporting the landmarking. But as an individual, you can give a call or send something yourself. Okay, and
Okay, just I know they on YouTube they live stream the meeting as it
This is in the
happens,
Bronx, is it?
and you can jump on the Zoom and comment as well.
Right,
As well.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's like a public hearing portions for that as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Should read it.
Other issues on follow-up, finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, because in the past we waited years, but we are getting the pillars repaired along Marshall Parkway. We had two major automobile accidents over the late spring and summer. And I noticed the ones on the south side have been completed. They were done in-house by Parks. And I believe they're working on the one on the north side at this point, just beyond the police station.
By the ring.
So that's a plus. Anthony?
I have a question.
I don't remember which one it was. It could have been at the October meeting that you know. So when we talked about the pillars, we were talking about payment of them. And of course, we know this work is being paid by the insurance company. Indicated that. So I asked at the meeting when you were talking about budget priorities, could we find a way to fund money for additional, situations where there isn't insurance? Could you give me a follow-up on that?
What I've heard was that they were waiting for the insurance companies, so I'm assuming they did finally collect the money to do the two pillars on the south side. And on the north side, I think there was an arrest involved because someone had been drinking before the to the pillar. So I'm not sure how that came to that, but I'm assuming it's in-house. It's the in-house people from Parks who are doing the work, so evidently they can handle it.
But in regard to community board priorities, I know
Yes.
the board meets and just has a meeting on that. Is there any way to, even if you need a letter to make that more a priority on that list?
You mean for the future? Right now,
Yeah.
they're working on it. There is a possibility we could, I was ready to start to contact our assembly people and our council people to see if we can get some funding, but that wasn't necessary, so we'll see what the future
Just to
holds.
copy off of that, some of them are falling apart that didn't get hit by a car yet. So to fix the other ones that don't have insurance, like you said, that could use some work. Especially where the railings are. Like I've grown up playing on those myself, but those put a good amount of weight on that, it's coming down. And a lot of the railings around the perimeters towards where the buildings are, you see where they used to be, but there's just like metal hanging out the ground, like with the concrete and the rebar, where the poles used to be. We used to like hang out on the sides in between the benches.
So what I can
Yes,
do
ma'am.
is list it, and next time we have budget
Yes,
requests, we will put it in for the entire parkway, I guess, when needed.
Yeah.
Curio.
Maybe if I suggest we do a tour or something and, what's the word? Document.
Evaluation.
Document what's there, not there, and what should be there, right? Those will remember.
Because you guys would know better than me.
I
There's a
didn't
lot
pay
more
attention.
benches. Those benches, there's like half a bench on every other block, and then you see on squares where there were benches at one point,
Hey.
but they just disappeared. And garbage
What do you
cans, more
think, would
garbage
that
cans.
be document what's missing and what should be done? on
As
the-
far as benches are concerned.
Well, he's mentioned benches, but going back to the pillars, like if there's some of them that are damaged, but not because of an auto accident, we need to get them repaired.
Just general upkeep.
I'm not concerned about immediate damage, I'm more concerned about the future. I think a lot of the pillars, like I would say, you know, next 10 years, you know, just like
Yeah,
naturally
we
start
always
to
put
erode.
in our capital outlay budget renovations for Marshall Park.
Much needed, much
So
needed.
I would consider that part of that, because that's a big issue. Okay?
To make sure it's there for the future. Just like the aqueduct wall, you have to preserve what's still there, because once those knock down, you're not gonna have the same stones. You're gonna, yeah. The new construction looks good though, but you gotta be careful and watch that. Thank you.
The next item to follow up, repairs to the Webster House. I was hoping Joe McNeary would be here, but he had a day off or whatever, so he's not coming. The last I heard, they did put in the new boiler down in the Webster House. However, they are having a problem now with leakage from the roof or something, so
Yeah, of
I'll have
course.
to follow up on that with Joe as to when they expect to open that, because that's a site that we really need open for our maintenance people along the parkway.
And a
Right
bathroom.
now, there's
Need much in a
traveling
bathroom.
crew and whatever, but we'll see.
There's no comfort station for them, or location for them to do the parkway.
Exactly.
Especially with Fish Field getting redone soon. You need a bathroom, unless you want all those trees to be.
All right, we're gonna
The
move on
bathroom.
to our new business. We are fortunate to have with us tonight Mr. Greg Haverism, who's Deputy Director for Bronx Forestry. And we're very fortunate that you're here, and I'm sure we will have a lot of questions. And we'll start off with the removal of dead trees. Is there a list? Are is the Parks Department doing it, or is this contracted out, or can you explain that to us?
Sure. So, excuse me, if there's a dead tree that's within Parks jurisdiction, so that would be anything on Parks property or a street tree, anything within the right of way of the street. If you contact, the best way to get in contact with our office regarding a specific tree is 311, because that enters a ticket into our forestry management system, which is what indicates to our inspectors that they need to go to that site, there's something wrong there, or there may be something wrong there. And that's what sends them to the site to do the inspection. And if the tree is dead or dying, and it does need to be removed, the inspector will create the work order in the field. That work order enters into our queue. We have a risk management system. It's an adaptation of the ISA, the International Society of Arboriculture. They have sort of their own risk management system, and we adapted that for more urban use, as opposed to the ISA, which is oftentimes managing forest trees and lawn trees, so we sort of adapted it to be more specific to New York City. We prioritize work orders by risk. It's kind of counterintuitive, but dead trees are actually sometimes less risky than live trees that have existing defects, because live trees have leaves on them, and the leaves catch the wind in ways that cause those branches to fail sometimes more often than a stone dead tree, because the wind moves through it more easily. It's not always the case, obviously. A dead tree is still a risk, and we still create work orders to remove it, but sometimes those risk work orders are entered into the queue in an order that some folks in the community find sort of counterintuitive, but I'd just like to mention that. So if there is a dead tree, we maintain a list of work orders for any tree in our jurisdiction that we need to remove. They're prioritized by risk, so the riskiest situations are at the top of the queue, and it goes down by risk. Sorry, one more thing. We do a limited amount of removals on contract, either removals that are large and complex or otherwise difficult to access for our crews. We'll sometimes put on contract, but the majority of dead tree removals are done in-house.
The majority is done in-house?
Yes. For trees within our jurisdiction.
Okay. We have a hand, Cheerio, go ahead.
Anybody from the board before I speak?
Any
Step on up.
questions? No? All right, go ahead, Cheerio.
Okay.
Be nice.
I have been at many meetings about dead trees. I had spent the summer documenting and listing dead trees for the city in 311 complaints. And I had over, I don't know, 50 or so, 35, 32 trees maybe. I don't want to be too over exaggerated. And I understood that once they put that diamond,
So look, white.
the white diamond in the tree, it's destined to be cut.
Yeah.
My problem is why that I have trees in the community with the white diamond from 3 or 4 years ago, never been cut. How is it that you haven't caught up?
So when new work orders are created that are deemed riskier than existing work orders, they jump them in the queue. Because our goal is to mitigate the riskiest situations first. And this also includes storm situations, for instance. So this is an extreme example. It's not still the case now, but when Tropical Storm Isaias hit, everything else went by the wayside. We spent weeks just cleaning up what hit or the results and the work orders generated from that storm, and all other work was essentially pushed back until that work was handled first because of the amount of risk that was generated there. That's an extreme example. It's not every day, but it just goes to show that new work orders that have risk that is deemed higher than the risk of existing work orders does jump those in the queue.
Okay.
Our crews try to take care of things geographically as much as risk as well. So if they have a really risky situation on Mosholu Park Lane and 204th, and there's also some removals just south of that are slightly less risky, but close by, they'll try to take care of things in the geographic area as well so that situations like that don't fall by the wayside.
Okay. What can I do being that you're here to expedite the trees that are strewn from 40 years ago?
I can give you my email, and if you let me know specifically what the addresses are, I can tell you if they have work orders on them. If they don't, we can put them on. And
If they have the diamond, they should have work orders.
If they have the diamond, they should have work orders, yes.
Email, please.
I can give you my card.
Or a card, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Wait, one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Please. Now, on behalf of being a custodian for I forgot my name of the church. St. Mary's Orthodox Indian Church. I witnessed this recently during the summer. Forestry came in, trimmed the trees, left a mess for me to clean up. Then, a month or a week or 3 weeks later, they came back. After spending all this money trimming the trees, they wiped out 2 trees and took them away. I get very indignant with that because my tax money paid for the first trimming. If the tree was dead, why are we trimming it if you were going to come back and cut it down and remove it?
So
I
we
can
have,
give you the exact location.
sure.
360 Bedford Park Boulevard.
So we have a block pruning program that prunes every single tree in the city on a cycle. That program is automatic. Every tree in the city is automatically automatically enrolled in it. The consultants for those for the block pruning program, go out. They create work orders, and the block pruning contractors go and fulfill those work orders. We guide the process. We send listings, but the work order creation and the work order completion are on sort of a parallel track to us. So it's possible that the consultants went out there, created work orders on the trees because they looked healthy upon initial inspection, but in reality there was a removal work order on them for whatever reason. And so the contractors proved them, and then maybe a month later we came by to remove them because there were sort of two different sets of work orders.
But see,
It happens periodically. It's uncommon, but it does happen.
But see, us as taxpayers, working people, it's bad enough that Parks has got like 1%, not even 1% of the budget. To see money wasted away for somebody to trim a tree, because that's a lot of money that's on the guy out there. Because I own private property and have a guy come to my property, I'm gonna have to pay through the nose. Then to have you come back and spend another money to cut it, that's like a ripoff of the community.
So we work to do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. It's impossible to catch every single situation of it, but we double check the lists of work orders created by the consultants to make sure that if there are trees that have work orders on them for removal, we do our best not to prune those because that is, like you said, wasting money. Like I said, it's not a perfect system. Some of them do slip through the cracks, but we compare those lists to whenever possible, not prune trees that were also.
Now, as of this day, we have 2 tree pits with stumps. And who's gonna remove the stumps and replant the trees? And how many 20 years from now is that gonna take?
So there's 2 different programs for stump removal. One is our office, we have a contract for stump removal, and one is the tree planting team. They also have a contract for stump removal. Tree planting will remove and plant. If they do the removal in a quicker timeline, then the planting will occur. We do the removal because it's all in-house with their group, with their office. The tree planting team works in all 5 boroughs, but is located in Queens. My office is in charge of the maintenance of existing trees after they leave the guarantee period 2 years after planting. So stumps are either removed on their contract or our contract. As far as timeline for that is concerned, one of the things I love about New York City is that everyone wants a tree outside their house, so the 311 list is rather it's great that so many folks want trees.
They don't wanna clean up the leaves.
Our planting team is, in a good way, inundated with requests for new trees and our contracts. I will say, I double checked before I came here today. There is an active planting contract for this community board. It covers multiple community boards, and so I only have numbers for the entire contract, not specific to CD7, but it expires fall 24, and there will be trees planted here. I don't know exactly where.
Just to follow up on that, we used to get a list, Community Board 7, of where the trees would be planted, spring and fall, whatever, okay? We never received a list of late.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I have this very short list that I got from Councilman Dinowitz, and it's mostly areas that are commercial.
Sure.
All right, and I'm wondering, is it the council people in each district in our board area that have to do this and pay for these trees? Or how is this changed that we no longer get a list?
As far as the list is concerned, because that would be coming from the planting team, I'm not sure what the process to get that is. I'm happy to give you an email of someone on the planting team to reach out to them and ask.
Now, when you say planting team, you mean Parks planting team
Parks
or
planting.
not a contracted company?
Parks Planting plants their trees on contract, but we manage those contracts in-house. So the Parks Planting team is in-house Parks foresters. Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we, at Marshall Parkway, between Danforth and Avenue East and the Grand Concourse, lost 2 or 3 very big trees within a couple of years. I have seen no sign of anyone removing tree picks. How do I even know that this area is on the list? Do you automatically put them on? Should I call them in again? What's the procedure when you remove a big tree? I mean, it's a heartbreaking thing to say.
Yeah. When we remove a large tree, we know that that tree has been removed. We have a system, we have a map that geocodes every tree, and we monitor work, or rather, we both monitor and report work on every tree point so that we know what's going on, where, when, that sort of thing. It still helps to call 311 and report that there is an empty tree pit that you'd like planted. That gives the planting team the notification that there is a desire for a tree in this area, and that will help them prioritize that area and that tree pit specifically. Exactly. If they don't know that the pit is empty, or rather, if they know that the pit is empty, but they don't know that there's a desire for a tree there, they may prioritize areas where other folks are calling it 311. So to put, be the squeaky wheel.
I'm not on the Parks Committee, I'm on the board, but quite honestly, this is government. If you're taking down trees and it's parkland, shouldn't you have a mechanism that automatically puts them on the list?
The planting team has a list of empty tree pits, and regardless of whether 311 is contacted by the public, they will put those empty tree pits on a list for planting. But they may prioritize sites that receive 311 calls rather than those that don't. So putting that pressure on may speed that up. But every empty tree pit in the city is known to us, and eventually, over time, will be planted.
Is there any way if I poll in to find out where it is on the list? No, right?
You would have to ask the planting team. I couldn't give you a solid answer for that.
So you'll give us that.
I can give you an email for someone.
Good, that would be good.
Sure.
Anthony, you have a question?
I have two.
Go ahead.
I apologize. Are you from Parks or from Florida?
Forestry.
From Parks Forestry.
Parks.
City Parks Forestry.
So if I'm hearing the conversation right, and I want to thank other people for asking questions, you actually answered some of them. But if I'm hearing right, it sounds like the 311 system is being used as a reactionary measure, where I guess because of my profession, I've always been one of a preventive measure. So my question is, and again, I don't know if it's you or Parks, maybe you could direct me. If a team, whether it was your team or Parks, went through Marshall Loop Parkway right now, you would probably find at least 10 to 20 dead trees, minimum. So my question is that on the list? Does your department, as a preventive measure, just go out to check?
On the list for removal, do you mean?
Well, on the list to observe,
Sure.
to see if there are dead trees, as opposed to just waiting for the 311 calls that may or may not ever come in.
Right. So we do park sweeps to see if there are dead trees that we may or may not have missed over time. We also rely on Joe McNeary's team of PS2s, PS1s. They'll contact us about large dead trees or dead limbs, and they'll redirect those to our office. They create service requests for us to go out and inspect. It's a different pathway. A 311 call creates a service request in our system. The individuals on Joe McNeary's team also create service requests, not through 311, but it ends up in the same place. So we do our best to sweep areas for dead trees, especially areas that have high foot traffic, like Marshall Loop Parkway. There's always a big push in Orchard Beach, before the beach opens every year, because there's literally 1 million people coming through there in the summer. We do our best. I will say a lot of our job is reactionary just because of the nature of it. We receive 311 calls and have a time frame in which we must respond to those 311 calls. So if we have a volume of 311 calls that covers our inspection unit for an entire day, we can't dedicate resources that day to go do proactive sweeps. So if those 311 calls keep coming in, we are bound to respond to them. And so oftentimes the best way to tell our office, or to have our office do a sweep, is either through the boroughs telling us, Joe McNeary's team telling us, that, their PSs are seeing a lot of dead trees, maybe we should do a sweep and we will schedule one. Or the public calls in conditions via 311, and if we get a certain, critical mass of them, an inspector will spend an entire day in Marshall Loop Parkway inspecting that area, making sure that all of those dead trees or dying trees have work orders on them, or that they are in fact healthy and don't need work orders,
Okay, now, since you say, we hear that there are tree sites that have been called into 311 and they're on a list forever, and I see here where Councilman Dinowitz funded. Is it faster to go through the council people in our board area to try to get funding for specific trees and sites, or, are these people going to wait too?
Is this in reference to planting or tree work on existing trees?
No, this is funded tree planting and tree guards.
Right.
Okay.
So tree guards are handled through, I think, an office in New York City Parks called Tree Time.
Mm-hmm.
There's an entire website online where you can, for a donation of a certain amount to Tree Time, they will install tree guards of a design of your choice. They have like 12 different designs on the website. And if you aren't, it's very expensive. And so I also say that if you can find someone to do it for cheaper, the designs are all approved, and you can just have someone do it for less expensive instead of donating to Tree Time. Tree Time is an office not managed by forestry specifically. It's sort of in forestry, but also somewhat apart from it. I don't know too many details. But their website, Tree Time's website, does have more information about guards. As far as planting is concerned, yeah.
Is this faster to go through council people or to put us on a list from 311? What would you
Again,
say?
because I don't work for the planting team, I can't address that directly, but I can, again, give you an email of the senior forester for street tree planting, and hopefully, for Bronx street tree planting
Okay,
specifically.
I would like that, please.
Yeah, and,
I have a question.
All right, AJ?
I took one of the care captain courses during this pandemic over Zoom, so I know about the tree pits and the guards and like the compacted soil, but I was told you have to apply for a permit before you could put it in, and anybody can do it, just have to put in a permit. The designs are already online. To just, if you can send that information to the board, because I want to put some in, but it's kind of costly to have it outside, like some of the kids would. I'm a CUNY kid, perfect volunteer hours. And then there was also a thing about planting native plants in the tree pits, so to avoid the compacted soil and to help soak up some of that green water. If you could just send a formal list of like the native plants, because they said something about non-woody, but they never like said you could plant sunflowers, you can plant like what exactly. And then the 311, the missing tree empty pits. I did a 311. It took 2 years, but the 2 trees eventually came this year. And then the Great Tree Search, is that you guys looking through the parks for the best trees? You guys need to talk about that more. We have so many trees. People don't know what that is, and I believe that's ending soon. So, yeah, any more information about any of that, over to the board, please. Thank you so much.
okay, let me see if I remember all the questions in order.
Tree pits, tree guards.
So as far as the installation of tree guards is concerned, if Tree Time is not the one installing it, yes, you do need to apply for a tree work permit. If you just Google New York City tree work permit, that is the link. There's a lot of information on that page.
David showed me how, like on the website, it was like you can use this like with wood design, just set it up, like take that to Home Depot, they'll cut it up for you, or whatever provider, and they'll cut it up for you. So I want to do that, but it was just I didn't know which permit to get because there's just a lot of links.
Yeah, if you Google New York City tree work permit, there is just a single page and a single link that is tree work.
And then like Ms. Barber said with the trees, is it easier for like not like private donations to put the tree there? I don't know, like 3 years for and then the baby tree to come.
The planting of the tree itself or the guard?
Yeah, do we need to get like private donors to just come in and start plopping in trees, or should we get the city council member, forestry and parks does one?
So even if you want to plant trees
Yeah,
yourself,
or if we get like donors and stuff.
So again, that
We
would
need
run
trees.
through the planting team.
Okay.
You would apply for a permit from them to plant.
Yeah.
That would necessitate sort of a basic review of just like what you're planting, when you're planting it, and what the species is specifically too, because we have an approved list of species to plant. There are certain trees that we don't plant for a variety of reasons. The site is also important. You don't want to plant something that grows 100 feet tall under electrical wires, so there's also considerations about like utilities and stuff like that.
Because we have so many empty tree pits, and a lot of our tree pits, especially in front of McDonald's and 204th, have been cemented over. So it's like they would cut down the tree and try to hide it. So reopening up those tree pits, and if it does take the private business to do it, like the neighborhood needs to breathe enough with the cars and the gas.
A tree pit that's been cemented over, if it is still a viable tree pit in our system, it's still on our map as a tree pit. We can reopen that when we replant.
There's been a couple of stickers on the floor where they'll come out, they're spray painted, and they're like, you'll get a new tree here, but then the owners, you'll see them come pick the sticker up, and then the tree never comes, and that paint
We
disappears.
still have it in our system. It's still a tree pit.
Check
so.
204, please. Thank you so much.
We have a few more than a few tree pits where the tree was removed.
The gas
stuff
station.
is still there. And the weeds are as high as can be, and there's garbage in it.
All of those are.
How can we, these are not trees in the park, these are
Right.
sidewalk trees.
So garbage is handled by sanitation. Within the park, it is handled more so by parks and by gardeners and CCWs. But on streets, garbage and garbage issues are handled by sanitation.
Okay, and what about the high weeds, because no one
Those-
came and took the
Right.
stuff?
Those are cut down at time of planting, but Parks does not maintain the tree pits. My understanding is that the maintenance of the area in the tree pit around the tree is the responsibility of the homeowner and property.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
That's why we need tree guards to keep the garbage out. That's
Exactly, and the dogs.
They blow it.
So, sorry, I'm trying to remember the other questions you asked.
the
There was-
plantings, the native or non-native, because in the tree
Of
pits.
what to plant in.
Yeah, there's a
So
list of stuff.
I don't have a list.
Does New York City have a list of what like should be planted? Because a lot of the butterflies and all that are bolted.
Sure.
Sorry.
I mean, I don't know if there is a list specifically online or available to the public. That being said, you can never go wrong with native pollinators. Like speaking as like from my past as a native restoration practitioner, or like a natural area restoration practitioner, you can't really go wrong with like native wildflower pollinators.
I'm trying to get the board to put Marshall Loop Parkway's Lost River back, so anything native, where there any information you have, I'll plant them all. Thank you so much.
And then sorry, I think there was one more after that.
The Great Tree Search.
Yes, so that is being managed by an individual from Central Forest. The information of that, I think, is in a webpage.
Yeah, I've
online.
submitted so many of our trees.
Yeah, I mean, submit as many. There are more great
Bronx
trees in New York
Park,
City
Parkway, there's so many.
than there
Yeah,
are on
there's
that
so
list
many.
right now. That list is outdated.
Yeah.
So yeah, please submit everything. I don't remember off the top of my head when it closes, but I do think that information's online.
Yeah. I'm saying November something.
Suryo, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to go now to, which we touched upon, Pacific tree pits on sidewalks.
Mhm.
We have a lot of problems of people who, when they redo the sidewalk, they fill in the tree pit. I had made numerous 311 complaints. Forestry comes out and they say everything is hokey dokey. I had pictures, I send the pictures with the complaints, 311, of chains being so embedded in the tree, and they said nothing was found. I brought it to the attention of the community board. Nothing was found. I don't understand how forestry comes and inspect. I assume that's under your jurisdiction. The tree pits in the city, in the streets of the Bronx, is that under your jurisdiction?
So the trees themselves are our office's maintenance. The pits are managed through Central Forestry, to an extent DOT because they manage the sidewalks, to an extent sanitation because they manage the trash. Sort of depends on the issue. But the pits themselves, the trees within the pits, and anything related to the trees, damage like the chains you were talking about, would fall to our office. Yeah.
Okay, because I had printed out the proper tree pit rules and regulations that you have on the website, 311 site, or nyc.gov.
Sure.
And it comes out, and it also, they eliminated the Belgian blocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know
That's no longer, no blocks supposed to go in there.
Yeah.
And when I go, what do I find? Cement, rocks, everything poured in there. And you gotta understand something, and they all know this. My company, because I own my own company, when I do a graffiti site, if I see the tree pits are messed up, we get out the sledgehammers, and we just remove anything that's illegal. I don't question. Nobody questions us. But when I put in the complaints to your office and they refuse to summons people, I get very upset.
So, tree pits, like I was just saying, are always tree pits in our system if they're viable planting spots. So even if they get paved over, even if they have Belgian blocks in them, the contractors who do the plantings, when they find that to prep the site, will come there, they will remove the cement or the Belgian blocks that are within the bounds of the tree pit, that 5 by 10, and then they will plant that tree. So, personally, I don't know if there is a process by which summons can be given to someone who paves over a tree pit, but I do know that those tree pits are always tree pits in our system and will be reopened at planting.
Okay, because we had problems. I had people come in, buy a house, cut the tree down, and cement it over.
Yeah, it happens. It happens in CD7, it happens in a lot of community boards, I've seen it done.
But my thing is, if I'm the guy making in the 311 complaint, why is it not taken care of properly?
So, we cannot pursue a tree restitution case, which is what that would be, an illegal removal or an unauthorized removal of a tree or pruning of a tree, we can't pursue a restitution case unless we have definitive evidence of who performed the removal of the pruning. So if you call us and say there was an illegal removal done, and we show up after the fact and the tree's already gone, the tree pit's already cemented over, unless you have a video or a photo of the company that did it or an individual doing it, we can't process it because we don't know who to send that restitution case to.
Okay, that's fair. Now, why don't you reopen the pit and replant the tree?
We do, but it's on the planting schedule, which can take.
Which can be 2 years down the
any
line,
for-
3 years,
any for-
whatever. Could you maybe tell us how many staff persons there is in Bronx Forestry, so we get a better idea of
What we're working
how
with.
long you wait for a tree, whatever?
Sure. Again, waiting for a tree is more likely the planting team, so that wouldn't be our office. But as far as Bronx Forestry is concerned, we have 3 inspectors. One is assigned to this section of the city. We split it up into 3, or the borough road. We split it up into 3 sectors. Each of those sectors has a forester assigned to it that handles the inspections and the permit requests that come in for that sector. A sector is in this borough 4 to 5 community boards, depending. There are also 2 climate pruner inspectors who float and go wherever there is a larger than normal density of service requests to help the inspector who has that area. We also have at full staff 2 full crews of climate pruners. They're the ones that take care of the actual work orders once they're created.
How
That's
many
Bronx
people is
County or
it?
citywide?
That's Bronx County for
Okay,
just
and-
Bronx Forest.
And the 3 inspectors of Bronx County?
Is Bronx specific, yes.
2 floating inspectors and 2 crews of people?
So yeah, it's 3 forestry inspectors, 2 climate pruner inspectors, and then 2 crews of folks who take care of the work orders.
What does a crew consist of?
3 to 5 climate pruners, depending on the number in the crew, they can take care of jobs of a certain size. The larger the crew, the more complex the job they can handle on a given day.
Not easy for us, as you can see. Go ahead.
Removal of the tree. So if we don't get a video, but if we get the name of the company that we see removing it, can that be submitted?
It's good for you to let us know, even if we can't process it. We may not be able to process it if all we have is a name, because if we go to them and they just say, we didn't do it, it's difficult to process. That doesn't mean we can't try. That doesn't mean that we don't want that information. It's still good for you to call 311 or to reach out to our office and provide any information you have. But it is difficult to process restitution cases without either being there on site when it's going on or having definitive evidence after the fact in the form of photos or videos.
How do we know? Because I've seen trucks with the bucket and people cutting. How do I know if that's a private company or that's forestry or if the forestry subcontracted or private?
Sure.
How do we
That's
know?
a very good question, and it's not always obvious. The parks trucks are big and orange and have a parks leaf on it, so that one's usually pretty easy. But as far as our contractors go, there are certain contractors that we work with more regularly than others, but it can change year over year, so it's not a guarantee. There's also permitted work where someone applies to prune their tree because block pruning is going to take too long, and they have the means and methods to do so, so they do, and that's actually permitted work. But if you see somebody working on a New York City Parks tree that is not us, it could be contracted or permitted work, but contact us. Call
Are they
311.
required by your contract to show ID if requested?
I do not know the specific contract language, and so I don't know.
As city employees, technically, yeah.
They-
Even if they're subcontracted.
I would
They
assume
will-
so, but,
They will again, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you any incorrect information, so I do not know specifically. I don't know. But
I have one question about the tree guards. It's supposed to not completely surround the tree, it's supposed to be 3 sides. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You don't want anything on the street side so the car doors.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
So, I have
Go
2
ahead,
questions,
go ahead.
and I think I may have forgotten. So, with 3 primer inspectors, 2 floating inspectors, and 2 full crews to prune all the trees that are having problems in the borough of the Bronx. How successful are you with doing that? Because that's a huge job.
There depending on the metric, I would say fairly successful. We also have contracts, forestry management contracts, like the block pruning contract. We have an individual tree pruning contract. We have a tree and stump removal contract, and then we have some pest management contracts. Emerald ash borer, Dutch elm disease.
Lantern fly?
We don't have any contracts for lantern fly right now. I can speak more to lantern fly. Yeah, honestly, you just need like a water bottle and jump right into it. But as far as pruning goes, the block pruning contract prunes 1/7 of all of the trees in the borough every year. It's a 7-year cycle, and we have maps that were made this year that delineate polygons within each community board for pruning, numbered 1 through 7, that have roughly equivalent numbers of trees, so that we can prune 1/7 of all the trees in every community board every year. That is more or less carried out every year. Because of funding and because of contract times and because of staffing, we prune 90+% of those trees every year. We get as close to 100 as possible. As far as in-house pruning is concerned, we have for the work orders that we create, the category C work orders that we create, which are the second lowest of the risk rating system. Category A is the most risky, then B and C and D. For category C work orders, I believe we have an SLA's service level agreement. I believe that it is 120 days. I could be wrong about that. I would have to double check, but I believe it's 120 days. And we are, again, I don't have the percentages off the top of my head. For category A's and B's, for the riskiest work, I know that we are 99% or above in taking care of it within SLAs. For category C's and category D's, it's lower than 99, but I can't give you a specific percentage.
I have a question. We have many new buildings being put up throughout our district, and my question is, who is responsible for tree planting in front of a new building? I see empty tree pits that the developer created, and the first time around, is the developer, or will Parks come and fill the tree pits?
So my understanding, and there's another team with New York City Parks called Permits and Plan Review that takes care of permits related to new building construction, PPR, or Permits and Plan Review. New buildings, when constructed in New York City, have a frontage requirement. And again, because I don't work on that team, I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's 1 tree every 40 feet of frontage or something like that. So a new building has a certain number of tree pits that are installed if they aren't there already, or if they are there and they're empty, they can be planted. My understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but my understanding is that when the building goes up, the contractor is responsible for planting those trees. They enter into a 2-year guarantee period. Once they leave that guarantee period, that is when they enter into our maintenance responsibility.
Okay, so 2 years and then 4.
And it's the same for planted trees that are planted by our planting team. Newly planted trees are the responsibility of the planting team for the first 2 years. After they leave that guarantee period, that's when they become the responsibility of our office.
So, if they don't, because I know of a new building, has a pit in front of it, then you remove the tree, the pit is still open, it's past 2 years. So that means the Parks Department is going to fill that tree. Here's the question. What do we do when these developers don't live up to their part of the bargain? What do we do?
I would reach out to the PPR team. I don't have a specific contact to that team. I can give you sort of Central Forestry's general help email, and I can tell you that email is actively monitored. I tell folks to reach out to it all the time, and they generally do get a response. It is actively monitored. So I can, it's a general help email. It's just central.forestry at parks.nyc.gov.
Central.
Yeah, like, you know, first name dot last name, central.forestry at parks.nyc.gov. They will, whoever receives that email, monitors that inbox, will route it to the correct office. And that, you can also reach the planting team that way, actually.
Okay.
So planting team, the permits and plan review team, the trees and sidewalks team, they are all reachable through that general email.
Okay, and this planting team, would they send our community board a list of all the trees being planted, say, fall and next spring or whatever, or how do they operate? Or it's a big secret?
I genuinely, I've never worked with them, and so I don't want to give you any
Okay,
incorrect
so I should
information.
contact, can you tell me the name of the person I should?
Yeah, so I'll give you, his name is Vernon Zuckler.
Vernon, spell the last name.
Yeah, let me look it up, because
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I didn't get it from you.
Z-O-E-C-K.
B-O.
No, sorry, Z.
Z?
Yeah, Zuckler.
Oh.
Z-O-E-C-K-L-E-R.
Z-O-E-C-K-L-E-R.
Yeah,
His first name is Vernon.
Vernon.
Okay.
Vernon Zuckler is the senior forester for Bronx street tree planting. So if you email the central.forestry email and you say, you know, we have questions about Bronx street tree planting, can you please direct us to Vernon? I'm sure that whoever monitors that inbox will direct you to Vernon.
Okay, that will help, because I think, you know, we get asked all the time, am I getting a new tree? I requested this a year, 2 years ago, and we can't give them any information.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay, two things. First, me personally, being the way the city doesn't want to pay to maintain our parks and our recreation, you guys are doing a fantastic job with a little budget. And I got it, my hat's off to you.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm thinking about it now, it's not fair, because if you had the tons of money you should have, you would be able to do the job much better. But that's always the way it is here in New York. Second thing, are you involved at all with the sidewalk tree uproot thing for private houses?
So that would be the trees and sidewalks program.
Oh.
So that would also be a central forestry concern. Our office handles the maintenance of the trees. So once it's outside that guarantee period, after 2 years, if it's a tree in a park or on a sidewalk, in front of a house or in front of anything on a sidewalk, it's our responsibility to prune, to remove,
And what about
to
uplifting
treat.
of the concrete?
That would be the trees and sidewalks program. They,
All right, so you have no.
I might be able to give you some general information, but I can't anything specific.
And they would take care of that if,
What would they do?
a sidewalk that has, or does the owner have to do that?
So that's a very good question. So I can tell you right off the bat that only tax class 1 properties are eligible for the trees and sidewalks program. Religious institutions, businesses, offices are not eligible for trees and sidewalks.
That's right.
Single family homes and I believe 2 and 3 family homes are eligible. Anything beyond that, large apartment buildings,
No.
businesses, offices, and religious institutions are not.
They have to, or
They would,
Pick
the
up the
maintenance
tab
responsibility would be
themselves.
entirely
Well,
from.
what's the time frame on the list?
Sorry?
Even if it's on the sidewalk?
Yes.
So-
It's only tax class 1 properties are eligible for that program.
So
Now, there is a DOT program that repairs sidewalks as well. I know that DDC has a lot of sidewalk repair contracts. They come to us for permits a lot for that. But that being said, I don't work for those agencies and have even less insight.
Okay, but I know of a situation where no one wants to call it in because they're afraid the tree would be taken down. Is that generally what happens?
Trees are not removed for sidewalk issues.
So what would happen then? They'll
They-
the sidewalk?
So they would call 301. If the property is tax class 1, then the trees and sidewalks program has their own suite of foresters. They would send a forester out to inspect, and they would measure the sidewalk for severity of lift and severity of sidewalk damage. And if it passes a certain threshold, it receives a score from, I think, 1 to 100. And if it passes a certain threshold, it's put onto a contract. If it doesn't pass that threshold, then it's waitlisted for future contract work. So it's always good to have it in the system. It's sort of similar to the empty tree pits. If we don't know that they're there, I mean, we know that they're there, but if we don't know that they're there and they're still as much a problem as they have been, we may be slower to react because we're not aware of, or aware of the problem, or it's not.
But I think this may could be a city agency that's next door to. How does that impact on?
If it's, I'm sorry, if the tree's in front of the city agency.
Yeah.
PSC, the giant tree,
Good luck.
breaking the sidewalk.
Like
If it's a utility, if it's like PSEG, then it would be the responsibility of the utility.
No, PSC is the school. There's a giant
Oh, the
tree. The
school,
sidewalk's all
sorry.
torn up. Nobody wants to complain because that tree is beautiful. Yeah.
It could be DEP. I mean, it could be that DOE would need to seek a permit from our office if it's around a tree to do the repair. And we receive permit applications for sidewalk repairs. Our office does. We don't maintain the in-house crews that do the work, but we permit the private crews that do. And we're happy to advise on how to best repair. Yeah.
Similar to what Ms. Helene shared. Marshall, back in the 80s, there was a DOT contractor that came to redo the curbing and cut down all the trees dedicated to the veterans.
I've heard that
So
story.
when stuff like that, people don't want to call up because historically, I mean, you're losing the nice trees. You get a tiny little sapling that nobody gets shade under.
I have heard that story from friends of mine who are older than I am. We do not do that anymore, I promise.
You guys should never start.
We do not slice roots. We can't speak to all private contractors who are not working with an arborist at present. Some of them do. That's a problem. But when we repair sidewalks, we do not damage the trees or do our best to mitigate any damage to the trees.
All right, I think everybody's had their questions answered. I thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
for
Thank you for
joining
coming.
us tonight. I would like the card, so
Oh, sure.
I can get in touch with you if I have it. And hopefully we'll see a few more plantings in the area.
I hope so.
Big community board, so
But-
we get a lot of requests, thank
Sure.
you.
But yeah, feel free to reach out to the planting team via that email.
Yes,
I'm sure
to
that
get
they.
the list.
Good luck.
Okay.
I hope so. I hope we're able to give you a list.
I hope so too.
But if there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or Central
Okay,
Park.
will do, thank you
Okay,
so much.
thanks. Thank you.
Okay, all right, before we move the agenda, would you quickly take a look at last month's minutes so we can get them through, whatever? Okay. Do you have any additions, corrections, speak up now? We're from October 11th. Should we have a motion from someone to approve the minutes?
We're not authorized.
All, all right, look them over, go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm rushing the motion.
You have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
So after, new business, C,
Right after,
new business,
new business,
C, park maintenance, the last sentence, request for the following were made. Is there something supposed to be there? No, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
That is number two.
Oh, yeah. Number one, there isn't a number one.
Oh, yeah. Missing.
No, I see the one.
The following were made.
It says request for the following were made, then it's two, nothing is requested.
oh, I see what they did.
Oh, okay. The actual request.
Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4. County.
four of us.
Is that Chuck?
okay?
Yeah.
All right, and yes?
Oh, that's
Okay. All right, so we'll move on with the rest of the agenda. I hope Joe McNeely will come tonight because I'm sure,
a substitute.
has some questions, but we can leave them for our next meeting. I wanted to know, I see a traveling staff going around in a truck to do parks. And I wanted to know, how many traveling units we have, because we're a big community board. And I also wanted to know what they plan to do with the leaves. I mean, right now,
They're
they're all
everywhere.
over the place, and when it rains, they get slippery. And then, garbage collection, I put in a complaint because what happens, and I know sanitation does this, but parks shouldn't. They pick up the pails that are there, and whatever falls on the ground, they leave.
Stays
They
there.
never sweep up.
Nobody-
And it looks a mess, even though the pail's empty. So please take a look at your parks and see if they do the same thing.
They do.
And I had mentioned it to Joe, and he said he was going to talk with the garbage collectors for parks, but we can follow up on that for next meeting.
You know what concerns me, and I wish Joe, Mary, if we could put it on the agenda. I'm a little confused because I'm seeing things on the outside of the Vole Park, mattresses, television, and then inside, they have this area where you can put garbage, and there,
A corral.
a corral,
Right.
you see some of the same. So my question, and I know he's gonna refer me
To,
to,
but that's
to-
all right.
to
We
Clint.
still want it, yeah.
to Clinton. What is happening? Because when I asked if this is a designated site for recycling, I'm told no. So if it's not a designated site for recycling, why are there electronics there? Why are there beds there? Why are there
Dumping ground.
That's your community.
No, they put them not in the corral, but out to the sidewalk.
outside? Yes.
Well, even if they put them into the corral, they don't recycle them,
Right.
things like that.
So what are we going to do about that?
Okay.
And
Security
is there
cameras.
going to be enforcement about that? I know Joe McNeary said call 311. I have, but it's not
It's actually
stopping.
dumping, that's what.
It's dumping. It is illegal dumping.
Those corrals say no dumping or no recyclables,
No.
just as.
They say
That's
bring
what
your
I'm
goods.
saying.
There's tires there are all sorts of things in those corrals.
It
The
is
idea is good.
Right, and it's, and no household garbage, no
Toxic
recycling,
waste.
no dumping.
All right, so in other words, they dump in the corral as well as along the sidewalk.
Yes. Yes.
And we fought up on Marshalloo to
Yeah,
get
that was
rid of that
horrible.
corral. I remember when they set it up along the parkway.
Same issues.
And,
Mattresses.
you have buildings along the parkway, people look out there, they don't wanna see garbage.
People actually bring their garbage, I've seen people come out of the building with garbage bags.
Right.
And leaving them.
Yeah.
They're afraid
My
of going.
suggestion is to get in touch with, what's his name in, the Roll Park, and try to get rid of the corral to begin with.
Okay, I'll
Because
try to push
I
it
think
back.
that's ugly in the middle of a park. Whoever thought of that, but the Parks Department thought he, was doing a good thing. Yeah, but not in the middle of a park. I know they have one up here in the Oval, but it's supposed to be secluded someplace. But, you have buildings
I
all
would
around.
try, I would try in my limited, I would try, I would advocate, because
Yeah, see,
It's
and
not
then I'll
working.
put it on the agenda for next
please,
month too.
please. And if we can get Clinton.
And
to
get
one of
Clinton,
these
why
meetings,
not?
it would be
He's
great.
been to some in the past.
I mean, the Vole Park is still being kept while there's a cleaning crew out there 7 days a week. And I'm grateful for them. I always say thank you to them. But I just see that is a problem.
All right, no, I agree with you.
Can I just show quickly real fast, because I'm confused as to the meeting. Marshall Parkway.
Right.
Now, what he said tonight is that I have to call sanitation.
No, I think
It's a tree
what
pit.
he's saying is it's the property owner's responsibility. That's what,
Yeah,
and
but
that's
it's
one of
right-
the sites I got.
Well, it's right on the corner.
I know, it's ugly.
No.
So
In other
we're
words,
just not doing anything, so it's supposed to
no,
be
this,
more
yeah, I would.
sanitation
Yeah,
company.
whoever, right.
See something, say
Yeah, I
something.
would definitely.
It's on Bainbridge and.
Okay, so I will put, the
Bainbridge and
corral
But this lot.
on for next month and see if we could get
Yeah.
Clinton to the meeting.
Yes. I mean, I thought the corral was a good idea, but people are just not
Yeah.
using it for what it was
Or
intended
parks
for.
litter, they bring in all their garbage, which we don't need.
Washing machines,
Oh,
really?
you kidding?
No.
Oh, that's awful. Syria?
The point that Toby brought up is you missed a major problem. The outside of the park technically falls to sanitation or the city. The inside is interior, the park takes care of it. We always had this battle with the oval park. Who's supposed to clean the streets on the outside, who's cleaning the streets on the inside? We had this battle for years. Your problem is, I'm gonna be blunt. You in a neighborhood where you got a bunch of slobs who dump, and they see the park, they fling it, okay? I never understood how a human being can't maintain their garbage. And I'm Italian, and we're into sanitation, okay? All right, so the Sopranos.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh.
okay, you know what I'm
That went
going with
over my
this.
head.
Okay,
Went
so
over.
now, I don't understand why people gotta dump on it. They'll go out of their own apartment and dump right there.
I see it all
And
the time.
they're afraid to go into their own
Yeah,
garbage
Marshall
rooms.
Parkway, they wanna run
She
to the
knows,
subway,
Marshall.
so what do? They don't wanna go in their basement to dump the garbage, they run across the park.
And dump it in there.
They,
That's what it is.
they won't go in their own building because of the rats. They'll dump it in the trash cans for the parks, which is supposed to be for your coffee cup, not for your house garbage or your mattress or this. And you know,
So is it
I
possible?
go outside people's. I mean, it's really sad.
Sanitation is not gonna pick up any garbage that's on the sidewalk along a park, alright? Forget that, that's parks. It's
Yeah,
not
which
gonna
you see,
happen.
that's the
Years
jurisdiction.
ago, they used to work together. Parks were short of people, sanitation would help out.
Yeah, with the snow.
No more. It's all parks' responsibility, so it's not
Okay.
easy.
Now, your major problem is that your DeVoe Park falls in another district.
Yeah.
See, you always come here, or your
On the edge.
friends of DeVoe Park come to this
No,
community.
no. DeVoe Park is in
It's in
CB7. This was an arrangement that was done years ago because in
Five, they had no
they don't
place.
have an office, any place in 5. And they did have an office in
In
DeVoe.
7.
So whoever was commissioner at that time switched and said, we'll put that under the jurisdiction of 5 parks people, but it's still considered 7. So we have to fight.
Yeah,
So I
but-
will invite both Joe and I'll ask him to get Clinton to come to the meeting too. We've had him at some of our meetings in the past.
You
so-
have?
Yes, so.
He
let's
really
do
did
it
show
again.
Clinton?
Oh, he showed, yes. I can remember him coming. And again, I mean, maybe there's something we can do to change that because it wasn't always that way. You know, it seems to me that there has to be a place in Ward 5 to put a couple of them.
Is that because 7 has a lot of parks properties? We have Parkway, you have Wayland, St. James, St. Mary's, you have like a lot. Is that why it was put over 5, or just because they don't have enough? Or?
Where does 5 end? Is Mullally Park in 5? Where does 5
That's on
end?
61st Street, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Okay,
No, I don't think it goes down that far.
okay.
I
And did
think
the
it's
lines get
District
redistricted,
4
or was that
down
just
there.
like city council?
Okay, that's District 4.
Okay, all right, if we look at the rest of the agenda, we'll move quickly. As you know, our tree lighting is going to be on Thursday, December 7th at 6 o'clock on Bainbridge and Marshalloo. And rather than having a parks meeting next month, I will expect you to show up with a tree light, okay?
Will they play traditional music?
Board members will come up on the stage, okay?
Okay.
But that's the way we usually have done it, so you get a month off, but just come to the tree lighting, okay? And there is a flyer in your packet, so please, when we get a little closer to the date, put it up in your building or out someplace in a store or whatever.
I'll put it online in Friends of the Boat
Okay,
Park.
that's great.
community.
I see we don't have anybody here from the recreation centers, so I'm assuming, well, I know St. James hasn't opened, they're anticipating spring.
Mm-hmm.
And
their
Williams
dog park is
Bridge,
lovely.
we did hear from the recreation director, there's going to be a dance group from here that'll perform at our tree lighting, which is
Okay.
nice, so
What's that?
we accepted that as one of the
At the tree.
attendance. And reports from friends or volunteer groups. Toby, do you have anything you want to announce?
So, Friends of the Boat Park did do their installation of art. It was very nice. I just want to let everyone know that I'm no longer a member of Friends of the Boat Park. That's okay, because as county committee, I am still able to do things, and we are doing a read aloud in the park on November 12th. We are being sponsored by Morris Heights Community Center. We plan to do voter registration, and we plan to have outreach there. So if you have anything that you would like for me, any flyers or anything like that you would like for me to pick up, let me know. I'm actually off on Friday. I can drive around and get anything that you need, so that when we do the outreach portion of it, I can have flyers to give out to folks.
Okay, now does this group that's going to be doing the read aloud and all, it's not the Friends?
It's not the Friends of the
What do I say,
Boat
who's
Park.
sponsoring it?
We are as county committee. I am
County
as
committee?
a county committee member. In the city government, there is a entity called county committee. It is actually a political spot. Is being responsible for 3 blocks in all 3-block radius in all sides, east, west, north, and south. And so I'm doing it along with Danielle Herbert Guggenheim, who used to be a board member here.
Right.
And we're doing it together. I'm doing it as 3378. She's doing it as 3178. And we want to, and I got off the phone with Sam from Councilmember Sanchez's office, and they want us to kind of keep it going. So we'll see what will happen.
What's
Okay.
the date again?
November 12th, from 2 to 4.
So I can state that it's
24.
being sponsored by the county committee?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the vote.
Okay, fine,
Yeah,
as long as
the
I
vote.
know. And I
Yeah.
will not mention then
No.
the Friends of,
No.
since there's nobody
There's
here from the
still,
Friends.
there's still a Facebook page up that was created during the time I was part of Friends of the Boat Park, but that one is referred to as Friends of the Boat Park Community. All right, so if you're on Facebook and you see it, that's me posting things. I do a lot of pictures of the folk park. It's beautiful now. the
Okay,
fall.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
For our next agenda then, which will be January, I will make sure Joe and the gentleman from Board 5 comes too. And if you have any questions, please submit them to me during the month. Certainly maintenance issues and whatever. Things are quieter in the parks, thank God. There was less litter, but still, we have to make sure that the Parks Department doesn't forget all the parks in the board area.
One little question. I know it's not really under your jurisdiction. Sanitation, did they give out the dates for the leaf collection, or you don't have that?
I don't know, there was a meeting earlier this week.
Yeah,
but
they didn't come up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Next month there ain't a meeting, so
Yeah,
I'll never know
I
anything.
don't know. There
I
must
didn't
be,
hear anything.
there has to be dates though.
Yeah.
Just besides the Christmas tree lighting, the board is hosting, I believe, November 18th, the Veterans Memorial
Yeah.
flagging event.
Absolutely.
So you guys should come to that. Cultural fairs, you guys
Yes.
cultural fairs.
There you
So
go.
don't forget that one too. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
Get your flags.
And the
November
tree.
18th.
The tree last year was so much fun. I preferred in Bainbridge because the way they blocked off, everybody felt so safe, especially being next to the tree and having the music there. Love it. Can't wait to see it this year. Thank you so much.
It should be,
Yeah.
should be.
The lights were so much better last year.
Yes,
Got it.
Definitely.
Spot.
Yep.
on the 18th of November, which is a Saturday at 11, there's a monument on Marshalloo. And we have a little ceremony. I believe the Veterans Committee from Sydney 7 sponsors it. And we like everybody to come out. They started it a couple of years ago.
It's the second ever.
And it's been a nice event, and it seems to grow every year. I'm a longtime resident of Bedford Park, and I remember when, it wasn't Veterans Day, it was Memorial Day, they set up right behind the monument, the stage that we use for our tree lighting. And they had bands, and it was a big event. And little by little, we lost the veterans in the neighborhood from World War II, and the Korean War, and whatever. And things just stopped. But I think it's wonderful that we're able to get something going again, and I thank the Veterans Committee for planning.
Similar to Miss Barbara, I grew up right there my whole life. That was, I think, it's a 21 gun salute. I'd never heard of those cannons.
No,
They don't do that
nothing like
anymore.
that,
But yeah,
it was nice.
it used to be.
But that's it,
lovely.
right. Anything else anybody would like me to add to the agenda next month? Nothing. Do we have a motion to close the meeting? Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it. Good attendance in this meeting.